morning, everyone, and welcome to the February 10th Advisory Board meeting for Barbering. The time is 9:10, or 9:09, should I say. So we'll be starting the meeting, and I'm going to call to order the roll call. When you hear your name, just say present. James Bowens.
Present.
Jenny Hatch.
Present.
Michelle Wasser. And Ronald Weathers.
Present.
All right. Thank you all for being here today. And right now we're going to approve the minutes. So I'd like the board to look over the minutes from last time, and once we've taken a minute to go over the minutes, then I need someone to make a motion to accept them. And also, while we're reading the minutes, to our lovely guests that are in the house, if you do have a public comment to make today, make sure you fill out one of the forms that are over to the entry and turn them into Miss Anna over here. And understand that we want to limit your speaking to about 3 minutes, and there's no interaction. We can't answer any questions per se from the comment, but our board can ask the presenter a question, okay? All right.
Ron Weathers, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Ron made a motion to approve the minutes. Anybody have a second?
I'll second.
We got two of them. All right. So, Ms. Hatch seconded the
win.
motion. So, yeah, you won that one.
That one.
All right. So we're going to carry on the minutes. Okay. All right. So right now, it's time for public comments, and it looks like we have a few of them today. Ms. Lily Benitez, if you can come to the mic here in the front and state your name clearly. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Lily Benitez.
Good morning.
I am the director of Bladecraft Barber Academy, and I've been barbering for a really long time. I just would like to, first of all, thank you all for your time. I know that you're doing this because of your passion for the industry, so I'd like to really thank you for that. Second, I would like to ask that when we go to consider the potential reduction of hours, that we keep in mind that it's something that we can consider. It doesn't mean that we have to do it now or not do it in a future, but I do ask that we be patient and give ourselves potentially 24 months to see what the results of the reduction of the hours will be in the cosmetology program, being as how we've only had an increase of barber licenses in the past 3 years. We've not had a decline at all. It's only been increasing. I think that that shows us that the hourly requirement is not an issue. And since the hours have been reduced for the cosmetology program, I feel that giving it at least 24 months to have data to then assess if we need to reduce, then how much we need to reduce. If the issue we've had is in education, I think that there are different ways that we can approach the quality of education. For example, when TDLR does our inspection twice a year, they could give us the result of our pass and fail rates for our written exam and practical exam. And I think if what we're trying to address is quality, I think that is data that we already have that we can do something with to, if they come in and inspect my school, they can give me my result, and not that they're going to tell me how to increase my score, but they can tell me, hey, here in 6 months, this needs to be different. And bringing things up for the school to bring up a plan of action in that way. The other fear I have in the reduction of hour is that barbering does not require continuing education, where a cosmetologist license does. And so my fear is just that we are going to be robbing education from a demographic that already doesn't get to have as much access to it as other demographics do. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for hearing my comment.
Thank you.
I got a question.
One moment, please.
How long you been in the industry?
Since 2003,
Since 2003, and you're a school owner.
I'm a barber school owner.
What is your pass and fail success rate?
I have a 100% pass-fail rate at boards
For the practical.
for the practical and written exam.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she's doing her thing.
I am doing all the things.
That's great. The statement you made about inspectors coming when they come to the school, that was awesome. I like that.
Thank you. I just
About
believe
the
that.
ratio.
Yes, I believe that they have a lot of things that they're inspecting.
Yes, yes.
But the data of our pass and fail rates is public data that's already being collected.
Correct.
And again, if there has to be a board on, if there's a school that is slowing down or that is a little behind, I'm personally happy to help give pointers to a school that could be in pain or helping out. Like, so it's about data that we currently have. We're already acquiring it as TDLR, right? Or PSI. It's data that's already there. If the quality of education is what's in question, this is a very easy way. And the inspector wouldn't say, hey, Lily, your score isn't, it's like, this is what your score is.
Correct.
You're close to,
Whichever
and you're in
percent.
trouble,
Right,
or,
right.
yeah, and then they come back every 6 months. So in a 6-month time frame, this needs to move, right? This
So
needs
are
to
you s-
increase.
So are you saying to have all schools maybe have a standard to maybe 70% and higher? Or
Students have a
80%?
standard to pass their state board exam.
Mhm.
Be having this conversation.
Gotcha.
I'm like edging because
Yes, okay.
Mr. Chairman?
I got you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a Miss Rhonda Bryant.
My name is Rhonda Bryant, and I'm a salon owner and an educator. I've been a barber for almost 30 years, and also an educator for the last 3 years. I am lucky enough to get to work with Ms. Benitez and at Bladecraft, and have learned so much more about our industry and the education that we provide for our students. I attended the meeting last in October, and I just want to address a few things about the change in the hours from 1,500 to 1,000. One of the arguments that you guys had made was that in order for the barber industry to keep up with the cosmetology industry, we should kind of be on the same page. But myself, I'm like Lily. How is that going to affect the cosmetology industry? What is the impact on that? Is it going to create better cosmetologists? Are they going to get out there faster? Are they going to have more knowledge? Are they going to be in more demand? So what does that actually look like in the cosmetology industry? And because they have yet to put that into play, I mean, they haven't implemented that to my knowledge. So we don't know how that's going to work out for them. And for us to change just because they're changing or in fear that we would not be getting as many barbers coming to school, I just have to say, the barber industry is on the rise. We are in demand. And somebody somewhere has figured out that barbering is profitable, all right? And maybe wants to make a shortcut. Let's get them out there faster. Let's get them to work more. You know, they want to make money. They need to make money. You know, I come from a poverty-stricken neighborhood from Amarillo, Texas. And barbering for me was a way to come out of that and to rise above that, to get an education. Not a student. I am not an academic student. I'm more creative. I love people And I love helping people and serving people. So this industry, well, I was also raised in it. My mom's a cosmetologist, so a retired cosmetologist. But having said that, this profession has provided me a way to do that. But to push them out faster and get them to make money, getting them to make money sooner, to me that means that their pay will become less. All right? The less education you have, the less value you have. That is just the way our world works. It doesn't matter. When you lower the bar, it's hard to rise it again. It's hard to lift it back up and say, oh, well, maybe that was a mistake. So before we do something like that, before we jump into that, let's hold on. Let's hold on to our standards. Let's hold on to what we do for our students. If the quality that the school of students and the quality of work, working barbering is failing, let's hold the schools accountable. Is my time up?
Yes.
Ha! That's a short 3 minutes. I had so much more to say.
Hold on for just 1 second. Anybody have any questions or
I just want to
statements?
say that was very moving, and thank you so much for coming all this way, both of you. I know it's a
Thank you.
long drive.
It
I know.
is. It is. You're welcome. Thanks for hearing me.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, do we have any more public comments? Anna? All right, okay. All right, well, thank you for those that came up today to speak. We really appreciate that. Now we'll go to staff reports, which is agenda item E. And we want to hear from Licensing Division, Yvonne Lopez. Come on down.
Good morning, members. Yvonne Lopez, licensing manager for this program. You will see the licensing statistics that I have provided, and just a few staff updates. I've got currently 3 vacant positions. We just concluded a round of interviews, so I'm hoping to be able to make a few offers and be fully staffed by March 1st. We've had 2 positions vacant since September 15th. We just recently had a retirement by Carolyn Ramirez. She was with the state for 25 years. She was with the Texas Cosmetology Commission for 10 years and then completed the remaining 15 years with TDLR. And that is all. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not. Anyone? Anyone?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Okay. Customer Service Division, Jacqueline Rush. Am I saying that right?
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
My name is Jacqueline Rush. I'm the manager at Customer Service, one of 3 managers, and I'm here to present the statistics to you and some staff reports, staff updates. Before you, you'll see the numbers of emails and calls that we receive monthly for fiscal years 2019 and 2020. Since November of 2019, we have seen a lot of movement with customer service representatives, 8 of them moving to other divisions, retiring, or moving on to the private sector. We have, since November, hired 9 new customer service representatives. 6 of them started just this past Monday.
Wow, okay.
And so they are in training at the moment, and we are going to be hiring 8 more customer
Really?
service representatives. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Seems like we're getting busy.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Enforcement Division, Rebecca Buckhalter.
Good morning, members of the board.
Good morning.
My name is Rebecca Burkhalter. I'm a prosecutor for enforcement. You guys may recall that during the last meeting, it was my birthday.
That's right.
And so I wanted to thank you guys again for
Yes.
being so warm about it.
And you're back.
That's right.
You made it.
That's right. But
You got it.
let's get down to business.
Let's do it.
So I wanted to touch on a couple of enforcement's closed cases because I believe that helps explain kind of what our goals are. So let's start with Brandon Rollerson. Mr. Rollerson applied to renew his barber license with the department, and he answered no on the renewal application as to whether he had any convictions for felonies or misdemeanors since his last renewal. His response was not accurate as he did have several new convictions, some of which were consistent with the illegal delivery of a controlled substance, which is prohibited by the criminal conviction guidelines for barbering that the advisory board helped us put into place. Mr. Rollerson's license was renewed, but the department attempted to revoke his license based on the new criminal history, the false answer on his application, and his refusal to cooperate with the department's investigation. So after a contested hearing, the administrative law judge recommended revoking Mr. Rollerson's license as he did not have the requisite trustworthiness, integrity, honesty, and fitness to hold a Class A barber license. The commission adopted that proposal, and on October 1st, 2019, Mr. Rollerson's barber license was revoked. So moving on to the next case.
Great work.
Jesus de Soto Melendez, which is doing business as Looney Tunes Barbershop, an agreed order was entered against Mr. Soto Melendez for failing to cooperate with the inspection and for employing 2 unlicensed barbers. The order imposed a penalty of $2,250, which has been paid in full. Career Maker School, an agreed order was entered against Joey T. Givens of Career Maker School for 2 instances of failing to have a barber instructor present while students were at the school. The order imposed a penalty of $2,250, and Mr. Givens is on a payment plan and continues to make payments towards compliance with the order. Beautiful Braids and Kinks. A default order was entered against owner Danielle Jackson for employing 2 unlicensed barbers. The order imposed a penalty of $3,000, which has not been paid. Lastly, the case against TDK Barbershop. An agreed order was entered against owner David Perez for his 3rd violation of employing 3 unlicensed barbers. Because it was his 3rd violation, the order imposed a penalty of $5,250. Mr. Perez is on a payment plan and continues to make payments towards compliance with this order. I believe the agenda, those are the cases. I believe the agenda also includes a reference to personnel updates. Our agency, as you may already know, has been growing rapidly, and we've hired a lot of new faces. But specifically, I wanted to tell you about the prosecutors that are handling the barbering cases. So all of the consumer complaint cases are handled by prosecutors Chris Funderburg, Victoria Meza, Morgan Cumming, and myself. And then inspection cases are handled by prosecutor Amanda Barrera, who is with us today, and 2 new prosecutors whose names are Natalie Olvera and Arusa Nizami, and they started with the department on January 15th, 2020. Yeah. And then I believe the last thing is the statistics. So on my birthday, we talked about the statistics from 2018 and 2019. So really the only update for you guys is the portion of the statistics at the very top of the page that are just for fiscal year 2020. So this year we've already resolved 180 cases, which includes 43 final orders. We've assessed $58,775 in penalties, and we've collected $28,650. So if you guys have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question, James Barnes. The case against Mr. Perez, it said there was that was his 3rd offense.
Yes, sir, it was.
Is there a cap? Like, is there a 3 strikes you're out, or how does that work?
I do believe that the enforcement plan includes revocation for increased penalties. I'm not sure whether the prosecutor attempted to pursue that in this case or not, but there is a strikeout eventually because increased penalties can lead to an offense that would involve a revocation of the shop license. So it's possible that if he continues to engage in this, that the shop license could be revoked. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's just for everybody watching, because it's not just the advisory board members, but if you have any curiosity about the enforcement plan, it's online on TDLR's website, and you can see the penalties have different, there's a matrix that sets out that increased penalties can result in increased fines and increased, up to and including revocation.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, the Regulatory Program Management Division. Uh-oh, I skipped one.
it was
I
education.
skipped one, my fault. I was trying to move her in front of you, Rebecca, I'm sorry. Education and Examination Division. She was already getting up. Miss Rebecca, sorry about that. I saw the leopard, but it's leopard, right?
Good morning, Chair, Advisory Board members. I'm Rebecca Armas with Education and Examination. I'm here to provide you with some updates. As you know, TDLR is growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And with that comes the addition to our team, our division growing. We have 3 new sections. We've kind of branched out into 3 sections. We have the outreach, audit, and policy, which will be covering the rules. That'll be our focus, and of course, outreach, which myself being the liaison, and then we have our auditor that audits all the CE courses under our purview. And then we have the occupational technical services, and they are the ones that are going to focus more on making sure that processing of the applications and CE courses that are, brought into the agency are processed in a timely manner. That way, there's less lag time. And then finally, we have our transportation and safety division. I was just thinking of something that was mentioned to me. And they will be focusing on our health and driver education, driver safety, and motorcycles that'll be coming into us. With that, we have 2 managers who are behind me here. We have Mr. Michael Strawn, who is my manager, and Angie Schmidt, who is the manager under the, as she calls them, hats and oats. That's what made me giggle. And with that, they also have, under Angie's team, she has 2 team leads, and then we'll be looking for a team lead for our division coming up in the future. So we're growing. We're growing. One thing I wanted to address on a point that Ms. Benitez brought up, I want to make sure that those listening and those in the gallery here know that you can look up your school's individual statistics on our website. If you go under the Barbering page, on the right-hand side under licensing and renewal and exam information, you're going to scroll down, you're going to click on exam eligibility results, and it's all there, and then number 6 is the school statistic reports. That'll pull you right in. You're just going to complete all the drop-down, and you can either select first time or repeat, depending on how you want to do it. You can also select it by each individual. It'll give you your student roster. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody
Very good
understood that they are public for everybody to use.
All right, thank you for that.
Of course. And lastly, I just wanted to, bring up on the statistics. We look like we're making a good climb there when it comes to the written examination for Class A Barber. We're going in the right direction. Looks like we had, first quarter, we were at 42. I'm sorry, not the written, the practical, I apologize.
That's right.
The practical, we were at 75, and now we're up to 79. The written has taken a little dip, but it's not too bad. I still think we're still climbing in the right direction when it comes to the written examination. Just making sure that we understand that everything is referenced to the textbooks, and your students will be successful.
That's right.
And I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you have.
Okay. Any questions from the board or comments? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Now, Regulatory Program Management Division, Ms. Bibi Perez. Is she present today? Or is somebody representing that department? All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Heather Muir. I'm the manager for the Medical and Health Professions section in Regulatory Program Management. So on our report, we have 4 categories. We have barber program activities and projects, and these are typically things that BB and Marinella are specifically involved in. So currently engaged in the Sunset Commission review process. We have met with Sunset several times to go over the program history and provide subject matter expertise. We assist other divisions with RPM related emails and contacts. And we've also working with bill implementation teams, specifically House Bill 2847 for this program. For public outreach, Jerry Gonzalez attended TIVA, and we will be attending the Image Expo in Houston in May. Personnel updates, we have a new director that I'm not going to spend too much time on because exec will provide that information during their update, but Charlotte Melder is our new division director. And we also have Amanda Smith that has joined us as my executive assistant. We're happy to have both of them in serving those positions and have enjoyed them both immensely. And then we have the medical and health profession section activities and projects. So the barber and cosmetology programs are housed within the medical and health profession section. And so this is kind of an update over like the team as a whole. So during the last legislative session, staff was very, very busy. We reviewed over 50 bills, and now we're currently helping to implement those bills, serving on and leading bill implementation teams. And we've also been involved in training the new anti-human trafficking team that you will also hear about, I believe, from exec. And we have started helping licensing with processing some applications, and we are going to meet with customer service tomorrow to discuss ways that we can help them respond to emails and do callbacks for them as well. Any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
So I know that licenses were coming out really, really quickly. What is going on with the delay in licensing?
As Ms. Lopez explained, they have had some extreme staff shortages over there. A lot of their veterans have left that team either through being snatched up by someone else or retiring, and so kind of that knowledge base is gone. Like she explained, the one person that had been with the previous agency that came over that retired. So you have new people learning, and you also have the people that have left. So it's kind of like slowed the process down for processing a little bit. So we are trying to start throwing more resources at it so that we can start getting them processed and out a lot more quickly.
So it's a temporary
situation. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And that was Ms. Hatch. Ron Jemison, Chair. Also, piggybacking off of that, do they assess a violation because of the fact that the license might have took a little long to process to the school or shop or XYZ?
Mr. Jemison, this Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel. Are you asking that, are we assessing penalties for us being behind on our, we would not, because that will be our fault.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anybody else?
I'm looking at Rebecca, right?
You're right.
I believe the prosecutor has discretion to take all the facts into consideration when they determine, yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Field Inspection Division. I think I have Mr. Reyes. All right.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Fernando Reyes. I'm the South Region Manager for Field Inspections. You were provided our top 10 violations for bar cause and also schools, barber schools, barber only, not bar cause. Barber schools, if you have any questions on that. Division projects, our East Region Manager, Cam Tu Tran, she continues to work with the Vietnamese TV in Houston and in Dallas. In those episodes, she covered the most common violations in barber and also included cosmetology in those inspections. Personnel updates, we bid farewell to Julianne Crocker. She accepted a position in our management analyst in our Office of Innovation and Project Management. Her start date was the 15th. And we welcomed a new team member, Colleen Cloudy, as our new lead facilitator. You'll probably be hearing from her in the future. Just to add on to that, if anybody else is listening, we also have 6 posted inspector positions available right now. They will close on the 18th of this month. And that's across all regions, all 4 of our regions, South, Central, East, and North. Okay. You were provided some statistics as well. If you guys have any questions on those.
Any questions, board?
I just have one question.
State your name.
My name is Jenny Hatch.
Yeah, right.
Are you getting a lot of applicants for these positions?
Yes, we
Excellent.
normally do. We try different areas, but usually we get a lot, and we get repeats. So we get some that apply, say, for Dallas, and then they'll apply in Houston too. So they're really willing to move.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's good.
That is good.
Ron Jemison, what's the deal with this bathroom thing?
As far as on the violations,
Right, so that, maybe I'll just look up the rule. They say they fail to have a restroom on or near? Or is it more about the chemicals?
It's
part?
more about the storing the chemicals
Okay.
in the restroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that's pretty, yeah.
Is it common?
No.
that you see that? Okay.
With no restroom, no. Just chemicals,
Just
yes.
chemical stored in it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so moving right along, we have the executive office report.
Good morning, Chair, board members. David Gonzalez, Deputy Executive Director for TDLR.
Morning.
I know y'all have seen my face around for
Yes.
years.
Congrats, yeah.
I've actually been at the agency for 23 and a half years. I preceded Mr. Brian Francis, but that's
What?
usually who you see in this chair.
Yeah.
I believe at the last advisory board meeting, we announced that Carla had retired, Carla James, and she was one of 2 deputy executive directors. Brian, in his wisdom, decided to fill the position with 2 instead of 1 so that he could spread the love. He is actually sharing his work now. You know, it's very difficult. He loves these meetings. He loves to engage, and I'm going to be doing my best to channel Brian Francis at these meetings along with the other staff. But Ms. Christina Kaiser, who is the Director of Enforcement, and myself, I was the RPM Division Director, got promoted, and we're now assisting as Deputy Executive Directors, in addition to Mike Itis-Mendez, who is former Chair of the Commission and is now a Deputy as well.
Awesome.
So hopefully y'all will see some at least equivalent work that Carla was doing. Carla gets to brag now that they took 2 people to replace her, but we're hoping to spread the love, spread a lot of the workload amongst these deputies. In addition to that, they may mention it's musical chairs around here. It's a good time to be here at TDLR. There is lots of work and lots more responsibility that we were afforded during the legislative session. So we have had some change-outs. Every single staff report showed personnel updates. There's a reason for it, because when there's opportunities for us to do more work and have more responsibilities, we have staff that also have to move around. It is a shameless plug for positions and postings, because we do need people, and y'all have, we've experienced some challenges with our workloads, both in customer service. The volume of emails and phone calls can be difficult when you have somebody working at phones and emails for 5-10 years, and they get good at it, but they get promoted to move on to other places.
Correct.
It's a little challenge to ramp up, so it can delay some of the times, the response times. It can actually challenge us with the licensing processing as well. So appreciate the consideration in those things. I know we have staff working very hard to take care of these things. Charlotte Melder moved up to be the RPM Division Director, and Ron Foster, a prosecutor prior, he moved up to be the Enforcement Division Director. And those are significant changes for us. Again, huge workloads, and we got new people in new places. We're hoping to keep up with everything that we've got.
All right.
Sunset review process. So we were fortunate that as we were growing, they gave us a little bit of a calm. They didn't make us go through sunset for about 12 years because we kept on growing, adding programs. But at some point, they had to draw the line and say, we're going to do sunset. Well, TDLR is going through sunset right now. In fact, we will be going through it now and through 2021 for every program received after September 1st of 2016. We'll be going through 2 sunsets in a very short period of time. This is the public's opportunity to provide feedback, give us input, give the sunset staff input on the job that we do. This is a very important time for any state agency. Our agency particularly embraces the opportunity. It's going to be an exception report that they make findings. They think of things that we may not have thought of. They come up with ideas on how we might improve, and they give those reports back to the public, and they have hearings on these things. We actually have Sunset staff visiting many of our meetings. We've had over 50 meetings with them, at least 50 meetings with them individually. A lot of that work is confidential work that goes on behind the scenes, but that period is over. Now all their work is pretty much available to the public. Any comments that y'all may have, any public comments that the public may have, can actually be sent to the Sunset Commission staff. They have their own website. They have dedicated staff, very smart staff. One of them is in the house today. Shout out to Miss Gandy, who's here participating. They take extra time to participate in each of the programs. They've been to exam review committees. They've been to all kinds of functions that we do to see how our work is, and there's some smart people. I expect good things to come out of their report. There could be some things that scare us a little bit, and we're going to have to work on, but that's a good thing for us. It's allowing us an opportunity to improve. So just be aware of that. The www.sunset.com, that's a place where you can go to right now and, again, give feedback and input. There's also our self-evaluation report on our website as well. So this is the time to hear from the public and make sure that we're on the right track and give us your feedback.
Encourage that. Can you repeat that website again, please?
I sure will.
www.sunset.texas.gov.
Sorry, I forgot the Texas.
Could I be recognized?
Please, Jenny, yes.
All right.
Jenny Hatch again.
Hello, Jenny.
So, hello. And I think you're doing, if you channeled Brian Francis anymore, we would be in trouble. So, you're talking about, just to clarify, so sunsetting is when a department is completely gotten rid of.
So David Gonzalez, TDLR.
Mm-hmm.
The state of Texas has a process where every agency has to justify existing, or program has to justify existing. If they don't have a meeting on it, if we don't have it, it goes away. We have to justify its existence. So this is important for every program in the state of Texas. This is your opportunity to remind people that there's a reason for the barbering to go on and for TDLR to continue their business. This is where legislators, there's some from the Senate, some from the House, that are in charge of this commission. The actions and recommendations that come from the Sunset Commission staff, there's a hearing that's held, and their recommendations could come legislative actions. It could be managerial actions. They could just come and tell us, y'all need to do a better job on this, and this is how we think you should do it. And we're required to implement those actions. So this is a time for feedback to be provided, and if we don't get continued as an agency or as a program, it goes away. That's why it's called the Sunset Commission.
Right. So not only this is where it's stuck. I know that the industries that are under TDLR are always being looked at over and over and over again. But you're talking about the entire commission,
So
Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation.
every program prior to September 1st, 2016 is under review in this session. Every program received, and this is mainly the medical health programs we received in one big lump, and a couple others, after September 1st, we'll be going through another sunset. All of our work is actually under their purview in regards to administration and how we do our business, because they're here looking at things. They can see anything, whether it's our accounting, whether it's our customer service, they can look at all those things. But yes, our commission, our agency is under review right now for all programs prior to September 1st, 2016. After we're done with that one, actually it'll probably overlap. We'll be looking at all the medical health programs that came after September 1, 2016.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
No problem, Jenny. I appreciate the question. There is a lot of work. This is in addition to the work that we have to continue to administer our programs. The Sunset Commission needs information from us to do their job. So I'm very proud of staff on how they've been accommodating for our Sunset Commission staff request, and it will continue on until May. Is when they'll probably have a report that they issue, and after May, there'll probably be a couple of hearings to hear what that feedback is, and there'll be more opportunities for the public to see what's going on with their programs and our agency.
That's good. All right. That's good. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Once again.
Thank you.
All right.
Strategic planning is next on the agenda, and
It is.
this is something that Brian Francis gets very excited about. And I know that our agency does things a little bit different than many agencies. We actually take it on the road. We actually go to try to schedule meetings with our public. In March, April, you should start seeing, we're trying to do some planning right now, but y'all should pay attention to notices. If you're not on our list server already for your barber program or for the agency, this is the time to renew and make sure that those emails work, because we will be sending out notices of what towns we will be visiting in person. We will also be providing services remotely with Poll Everywhere, where if you can't show up in person, but you want to provide your participation via phone, maybe some text, you can do that as well. We're still contemplating, again, which cities to visit, but we're excited about it because this is our time to actually get with the people, make sure we're hearing the voices. We've had pretty good turnout the past few years. We get arrows shot at us. This is usually the people that show up have something to say. They let us know what they're thinking, very similar to the Sunset Commission, but in this instance, it's our list of wish lists that we can establish and try our best to implement what the people are asking for. We've actually taken the information from strategic planning and incorporated it into our strategic plan for legislative actions, and many of those actions end up getting taken up by legislators because we've shared with them that this is what the people have asked of us, this is what we need to do it, and then we're available as resources when it comes time for getting those legislative actions taken care of. So it's a good time to be here at TDLR and hear all the feedback. It's a lot of work, but it doesn't happen without the public's input. It's very important that y'all participate in that process. We have enacted things based on the input we receive from the public.
Very good, very good.
Communication outreach statistics. So this is showing y'all how y'all's webpage for barbers in particular is performing. We take pride in the information we put on our website. It can always be improved. But over the past 6 months, from July through January, the Barber's website has had 69,630 views. That's pretty high traffic there. An average of 376 people per day visiting. 25% of those visitors access the site from a desktop computer, while 73% did so from a smartphone and 2% from a tablet. The top reasons for visiting the site are frequently asked questions, exam information, which Ms. Rebecca touted again once again because that's important information to those students, forms, transferring your barber license from another state, and the barbering administrative rules. All right, and last on the report is introduction of the anti-trafficking unit. So I do not believe we have any of those individuals here, but anti-trafficking is another passion of Brian's. This agency took the lead because of our unique role in interacting with licensees. We have an opportunity to identify things that maybe other local law enforcement can't do. We have some inspection authority. We have the license information, licensee information, whether it's labor or sex traffic. We have an opportunity to have an effect. Brian decided we'd try with one person. We didn't actually have funding necessarily dedicate to anti-human trafficking, but we had enough monies and resources to put a half a person on human trafficking, half a person on disaster response, which was a big deal a couple years ago. Brian had one person. Her name was Jennifer Harless. We had her doing triage, is how Mary Winston used to refer to it, all over the place, trying to make those contacts, develop those relationships so that we could see what effect we could have. Our enforcement division worked really hard with Ms. Harless to make things happen. Our field operations division worked really hard with Ms. Harless. We were able to make a case for more resources because of our unique role. We now have a team dedicated to anti-human trafficking, and I know Mr. Francis is proud of that. I'm going to name the team. So Jennifer Harless is still there. She was the lead. We have Ray Carswell, Brian Cottle, Gloria Newton, Alex Ortiz, Jordan Strain, Chuck Winkler, Jennifer Ignacio, and still a position to be posted later, someone that's going to help out to make sure we've got things funded whenever it comes time to get grants. This is an important time for TDLR. Sex trafficking, labor trafficking is a big deal in Texas, unfortunately, and it's something that we can all play a role. The governor's office has taken a lead and has their video, The One. If you haven't listened to it, there's an opportunity to go to their website and listen to that. Every community in this state probably has something like this going on, but you may not be aware of it. It just takes the eyes and ears, people dedicated to finding it and locating it. This particular team is going to be focusing first on illicit massage parlor businesses, those that are not licensed, or they may be licensed, but they're not really doing what they're supposed to be doing. But there's also the labor trafficking that can come into barbers and to cosmetologists, and that's why we're putting the resources towards it. And of course, when the legislature gives you resources and mandates, they're expecting some results. So there's more work involved for us, but we're excited for the challenge and just very proud of the team. They're going through extensive training right now to make sure they can coordinate effectively with local law enforcement and the message to those out there doing bad things is we're going to be looking, and there's
Yes.
going to be a dedicated team looking to catch those people that are not doing things right.
Very good.
That's all I have. Any questions of me?
You have a question? Anybody on the board have a question?
I just wanted to
Ms.
comment,
Jenny?
this is Jenny Hatch again. That is very incredibly important work, and this is to help the most vulnerable people in this country, a significant percentage of whom are children. And I appreciate that. I think that anything that we can do to help these people is of significant importance.
Appreciate that, Ms. Hatch.
Sound like I got a lot of work to do in 2020. We're working. We're
Yes,
working.
sir.
We're
Yes, sir. You
working.
know it.
Working well. At this point, well, thank you very much, Dave.
Yes, thank
once
you.
again. And everybody on the staff is always doing a great job and very good with communicating with us. Before we go to item F, actually, I wanted to take a 5-minute break right quick, and we'll reconvene. Right now, it's looks like 9:55. We'll reconvene at 10 o'clock, okay? 5-minute short recess. All right. I haven't hit the gavel yet, but I'm about to. And I was 4 minutes late. Huh? Okay. All right, let's call the meeting back in at 10:04. 4 minutes behind schedule on that one, huh? Okay. All right. I hope everybody was able to take their little break. I know I needed a little one. And we're going to move on to item F on the agenda, which is Ms. Colleen Tran.
That's right. Good morning, Advisory Board members. Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel, and I've asked Rebecca Armas from E&E to sit with me today, just in case we have any technical questions.
Okay.
I'll be going over Agenda Item F, which will be the rules that were proposed. The rules were published on January 3rd, and they closed on February 3rd. We received approximately 76 comments, and you guys received those comments in your packet. So what you have before you today are my summarizations and groupings for those comments. So like comments were grouped together for ease of going through instead of having 77 individual responses. I tried to group them together as best that I can. And I'm going to go through the chart. They are suggested summarizations and suggested department responses. So you guys are more than welcome to stop me if you have questions. If you need me to pull something in particular, just let me know and we'll walk through that. So we'll go over the comments today, and then once we're done, we'll take a vote on how you want the rules to look to move forward. Hopefully you guys will recommend that they go to the advisory board, to the commission, for a final adoption. If not, we'll have some conversation about what we need to do.
Okay.
So of the 76, what I've done is I've grouped them. So I kind of pulled my largest groups together first, and then you'll see they kind of go down to other things that may or may not be about the rules as you saw from the comments. So we had 29 commenters who were against the reduction in hours from 1,500 to 1,000. So the suggested department response to that is House Bill 2847 in the 86th legislature regular session lowers the number of hours required to obtain a cosmetology operator license from 1,500 to 1,000. As a result of the legislative change for the cosmetology program, the Advisory Board of Barbering met on November 4th, 2019 to discuss lowering the number of hours required to obtain a Class A barber from 1,500 to 1,000. The Advisory Board members reviewed several recommendations, listened to public testimony, and extensively discussed whether the hours should be reduced. The Advisory Board voted to propose the rules to reduce the hours required for Class A barber license from 1,500 to 1,000, and no change would be made as a result to those. Again, these are just suggested comments, and as we go through, we can make adjustments if needed. 15 commenters were in favor of the reduction. And as you can see, the response would be the same for that one, because it would be as a result of the cosmetology is why we're having this conversation. 6 commenters asked very specific questions about how the reduction in hours would personally affect them. That was an administrative question, and so therefore they raised very issue-specific questions about the application of the rules and not necessarily about the rule itself. So that those comments have been forwarded to the appropriate division for response to those very specific issue-specific questions, and no change would be recommended as a result of those comments. So those comments were, how does this affect me, essentially? I have X, what does it look like? Not necessarily one way or the other about the particular rule. 6 commenters asked issue-specific questions regarding the transition and implementation of the 1,500 to 1,000. So some were schools and some were students. So we had specific students ask, like, I have 850, what does this mean for me? I have 400, what does that mean to me? So I grouped those together and asked the divisions to review them individually, because they're, again, not about the rule, more about the process. One commenter would like to see the curriculum changed or updated. So as you can see, the response to that would be significantly the same, except for currently there are no changes to the curriculum standards that are required to be taught, only an adjustment to the hours. So the comment has been referred to the appropriate division for further review about updating actual curriculum. So maybe as the work group, something for them to take up in the future, because there's no recommended change in curriculum, just the hours. 2 commenters would like to know more information, and I'm going to mess this up. Hyaluron penhyaluric acid. I'm not quite sure what that is, but that comment is beyond the scope of these proposed rules, so no change has been made as a result to those comments. One commenter wanted to know if they could get their instructor license for 100 hours because they have 1,500 hours. The commenter raises an issue-specific question. That comment has been referred to the appropriate division. However, there are no changes being made to instructor licenses, and so no changes being made to the rules as a result. One commenter would like a refund for their school tuition now that the hours have been reduced. The comment regarding refunds is beyond the scope of this proposed rulemaking, so no changes are going to be made as a result of that comment.
Should be more comments than that.
Two commenters wanted to know how to renew their license. Those comments were referred to the appropriate division, and therefore no changes have been made to the rules as a result of that. One commenter wanted to order their rules and regulations book, and so that again has been referred to the appropriate division. We're not going to make any changes as a result of those. One commenter had a question regarding remote services and wanted to know whether or not that law was modeled after another state or another state rule or law. To our knowledge, that there are no similar state laws or rules, but no comment because there's no change or there's no question about the rule. There's nothing that's going to be made, no changes that are going to be made as a result of that comment. One commenter wanted a copy of the proposed rules. Those were given to them, so no changes are going to be made as a result of those comments. One commenter submitted their email and name, but no actual comment, so no changes are going to be made as a result of that comment. One commenter would like to know if they will receive student loan forgiveness for the 500 hours. That comment about student loan forgiveness is, again, beyond the scope of this rulemaking, so no changes will be made as a result of that. One commenter would like to see the curriculum updated and apprenticeships for salons. The curriculum, again, the hours are just changed. The current curriculum is not different, perhaps something for the work group and advisory board to take up at a different time. It's beyond the scope of this rulemaking. And apprenticeships would have to be a legislative change. So I've just noted that there are no changes made to this, but those are beyond the current proposed rules. One commenter would like to have the structure of the curriculum to allow the schools to decide the hours themselves, but just have an outline of the curriculum. That's beyond what we've done here for our rulemaking. The hours are set, and then we have tried to give you structure as part of what the curriculum is. So no changes have been made. I did note that the goal of the rules and the laws are to ensure that everybody has a minimum standard of what they're teaching in curriculum. One commenter would like to see the impact on the reduction of hours, to wait and see how that impact is on cosmetology first. As you note, I've just made the same comment that I have for the people who are for and against, and we can adjust as we need if we need that. One commenter hopes that the rules for the reduction of hours is well thought out and planned, and I believe that you guys have discussed that and will continue to discuss that, and so again, you'll see the same response there. One commenter would like for the students to be able to sit for early examination prior to 900 hours. That is beyond the scope of this rulemaking. We did not adjust the early examination hours, perhaps something for a future discussion for a different rule packet. One commenter asked specific questions regarding how the reduction of hours would affect them, but also this person expressed they were in favor of the rulemaking. So I pulled this one out because it was a little bit different from the other ones. And so I've provided the same response, that it was issue specific and it's been referred so that they can be contacted about their particular hour situation, but then that they're also in favor of it. I just wanted to pull that out. One commenter would like to know how students will be affected by the reduction in hours and how the examination would change. So this one, again, is a little different because it asked about the examination, and just to note in the response, will not be any changes to the examination, and I wanted to make sure that that comment was addressed, that there were no changes to the examination, and so the rules would also not change for that one. And then one commenter believes that the proposed rules on remote services would be beneficial, and that the House Bill 2847 from the 86th legislature these rules would implement remote service businesses, and so therefore there's no changes made to this. So that's a review of the summaries and the groupings for the comments that we received.
A lot of comments.
Yes, there were.
Anybody have any questions about the comments? We have no questions about the comments.
Then a motion would be in order.
We're going to call a motion to accept the rules as is.
Ron Weathers speaking.
Mr.
We're
Weathers?
calling,
Yes.
what exactly are we doing right now? We're calling,
Anybody can make a motion at this point to accept the rules as they were proposed, to recommend that they go before the commission for adoption.
I think there should be a little bit of discussion if I could be recognized.
yes.
Sure.
Please.
So, my name is Jenny Hatch. This is we've gotten so much contact from the public on this issue, and I value it so much. It's very, very helpful for us to get feedback from people, and that's what we want, and that's why these proposed rule changes go up for the public to comment. I have been in the position that many of you are in, where I have come to a strategic planning meeting, where I have come to a board meeting, wanting a change in the industry to help me and others like me, people who live in my area of the state, which is completely unserved by barber schools. People that live out there are prevented from getting into the industry if they cannot afford to move to a city where there is a school and pay for school to get licensed. In 24, I believe, maybe it's 26 other states, there's an apprenticeship program where you can apprentice under a licensed barber instead of going to school, and then take the same licensing exam, become licensed. And so that is what I talked to my state representative about, what I had talked to TDLR about, and it would have been incredibly helpful for my business, and also getting a lot more people into the industry who do come up against that barrier, who don't live in cities that have barber schools. It didn't happen. Instead, we got the not-so-popular crossover license. My state representative was thrilled to tell me that we were going to get this crossover license. And I said, no, that is not what I want, because people in my area also were not able to go to cosmetology school. It helped me not one bit. And so I understand the frustration when you participate in what is going on here and you don't get the outcome that you desire. Some things take time, and some things never happen. What we do have to think about is the big picture. And the big picture is keeping our industry regulated, period. Because in some states, they have sunsetted, they have gotten rid of the industry regulations altogether, which means anybody can say, I'm a barber, with absolutely no training. Also, it is not up to the state to regulate quality. We're just making sure that people are safe. It is up to the schools. It is up to training programs in barbershops, in salons, after you get out of schools. There are so many opportunities for continued training after you get your license, after you have learned your basics in the school, or schools are not prevented from adding additional training hours. If you want to have, I've been to an advanced academy in New York. I've had my license for many years, and I have gone on to do more schooling. And obviously, people attend shows and go through training that way. So it's possible to get more. You're not limited to the hours that are set forth. That is just the minimum requirement. So the industry is growing. There are more licensed barbers. The schools are doing their best. I know they're doing a great job in this state, but there are not enough schools. And some of these schools have a 1 to 2 year long waiting list to get in. So while the industry is growing, I think that the industry could grow at a much, much bigger pace, faster pace. We still have 1/10 of the number of cosmetologists in the state. And barbershops are forced to hire cosmetologists or are hiring unlicensed barbers to work in their shops because there are not enough barbers to fill the positions. I have no barbers. I'm the only barber in my shop. There are no more barbers in my area to hire. And I have traveled around trying to recruit, let me tell you. It's kind of hard. The people who want to live in Alpine, they already live there. I will say some very good points were brought up by the public, especially Ms. Benitez. That's a very, very well thought out package that you sent to me, and I have it right here. The most concerning one to me is the reciprocity. It concerns me that if you get a license in Texas, that you may not be able to practice in other states. I think that that's a big deal. However, I also think that it should not prevent us from continuing to do what is right in Texas. I think that other states are going to be looking at what we're doing. I think that there are going to be changes made in other states because the whole country is trying to reduce and remove barriers for people getting to work and working in every kind of industry. Also, this hour, we already have a 1,000-hour program. Barbers can get into the industry by doing a 1,000-hour program in a high school. It is in the rules, it is in the law. So we have a 1,000-hour program already. The police, in contrast, are required to do less than 700 hours of training, and they are the ones who have our freedom and our lives at times in their hands. I think that we can train people to be minimally competent barbers. I know we can within 1,000 hours. It's already in the rules. We already can do it. Schools are welcome to, I love this, that the commenter that would like to have a structure for the curriculum and allow each school to decide the hours, I think that would be great because some students need more hours and some students don't. Some students have grown up in the industry. They already know how to cut hair by the time they go to school. Also, the sanitation requirements, I am on the curriculum and education work group, and there was a comment about in my emails here that says, I believe the hours should not be reduced by 500. I think it's important that stylists are equipped enough to understand the chemical process and sanitation. He said that only spending 150 hours covering sanitation would not be enough. And I wanted to address that. I wish I could address every single one of these comments because they're also valuable. But this one, we have sanitation in each of the categories in the curriculum. Because while you're learning hair cutting, while you're learning shaving, while you're learning chemicals, you have to learn the sanitation and safety in each of those categories. So there is more than 150 hours in there. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to bring it to a close here, but this stuff is really important, and I want you all to know that we are thinking about everything, all of this information that we're getting, and we're trying to do our best for the industry. So, considering the big picture here, I'd love to hear from other board members what they're thinking on this. We do this in front of you. This is our deliberation here. So if you have anything else you want to talk about, I'd love to hear it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. James?
James Bowens. I've talked to people individually about how they felt the negative side of if we were to change the hours, and I've talked to people on the positive side that they're for the change. And I feel like this change on our end, I feel like it's only set in motion because of what the cosmetologists are doing. And it's like, hey, they're doing it, so we need to make some changes. And I also understand that when change happens, and you know, I'm 50 years old, so I understand there's the ways that things that are happening for 20-year-olds.
You're not
50. Yes. So I realize that 20-year-olds, there's things that may have happened for me at the age of 20 that when I look at it now, it may not be as conducive for the 20-year-olds now. So I understand that change will happen. I get that. But me personally, as far as the change from 1,500 hours to 1,000, I personally would think it would be a great compromise to go to $12.50 instead of, the 500-hour drop, because I feel like on both sides of the fence there's some valid arguments, and so I feel like if we were to go to 1,000, that would mean only one side of this fight is going to win and one side is going to lose. And I do believe that change is going to come. It's kind of inevitable. So I just think it would be a compromise to go from 1,500 to 1,250.
Thank you for your comments. Do you want to speak, Ron?
I would. Ron Weathers speaking. One of the beautiful things about this board members is each one of us, the way it was so eloquently put together, come from different backgrounds. We come from different areas. So we get different views about this industry that we collectively love. I'm listening to some of your comments. Jenny, I know we and I think you helped spearhead lowering the requirements for barber colleges, or it was around that time. So, because so many barber colleges have popped up since, I know particularly a few people, because I was an instructor for a few years, with still, being the shop owner and whatnot. So
There's still not one in Alpine.
you got that's for you to get, and you make one. Put one
Business
in Alpine.
opportunity there.
Yeah, and there you have it. And also, I was listening to some of the other comments, and again, I want to thank everybody who spoke. Why? I asked the same question I asked last time. Why are we doing this? So I wanted to know. I wanted to know why. Why are we even having this conversation? Is it just because the styling, the cosmetology schools are doing it? I mean, I'm 45, and you look great for 50. I'm 45, and
record for that, my man.
And I teach my kids, and I got a lot of kids.
All right.
All 7 of them, I teach them to make your own decisions. Don't be monkey see, monkey do. And just because, and again, I'm not trying to impede progress. I'm not being antiquated in my thought. I've had some time to think about this, and I feel like we're just doing it because the cosmetologists are doing it. And I like your motion to maybe decrease the hours, but again, I'm asking why. Why? If I'm listening to the enforcement board, I'm listening to everybody. Business is booming. Great time. My brother, to be in TDL law, everybody's booming. So if it's growing, what are we doing? Why are we even making this decision to lower the hours? What is this going to? I just don't see it improving and growing and helping us in any way, except diluting this industry. Anytime you take education from a thing, you take the value from it. When we add more to it, which is very near and dear to my heart, the human trafficking. But they snatching folks these days, just snatching people out of Walmart, just taking people. Nobody had, and them same folks come to the barbershop. And so you add more for barbers to learn about. You add more on their plate, but you're trying to take it a third away. We got to think this thing out, like seriously, and that's big these days. I have a friend of mine who they're looking for Lord, they're looking for one of their a relative now, and so it's a whole nother subject for a whole different day, but it still affects our community because this barber industry, we're in the community. We see what you don't see. We hear what they're not trying to say. We feel what they don't allow you to touch. We see what they try to hide, but we can see it because we're involved with people. This is a relationship business, and you learn so much through these relationships. And if we take the hours away just to be like another industry, I think that's ridiculous. And I'm so in disagreement of it. And I've had time to think it out. I've talked to barbers. I even listened to the summit. And you, my brother, I gotta commend you because you were one of the barbers that stood up for cosmetologists when they were at one point trying to abolish barbering attempting to take the barbering hours away. You were on the courthouse steps when you 6 in the morning. I mean, you were against them lowering cosmetologists down to 1,000 hours. And I commend you for it. So, and I was looking at that same summit. I wasn't there. I was there, but I was looking for it online, and I saw where a barber school owner out of San Antonio, guy was speaking about how he had graduated 25 people since '74. He's been a bar shop owner. This is a specialist in the industry telling you that he thinks that's a horrible idea. Whenever you go to a court proceedings, and we see it on, anybody been to a courthouse and you see when the lawyer pulls a specialist up or pulls somebody up on stage, they hire a specialist in the industry and they ask for their particular opinion on this situation. So we've got specialists that take their time to come out and talk about this, and the specialists, majority, a high majority, are saying no. Are saying no, this is a horrible idea. This is a horrible, and I'm one more thing, and I'm gonna get out the way. Veterans are very near and dear to my heart. Military brat. I was born at Carswell Air Force Base. My dad was a veteran. Okay, God rest his soul. He passed away January 31st, 2012. But what I learned from him going into the automotive industry when leaving the military, that he was looking for something that reminded him, something that reminded him, the uniform reminded him of the uniform in the Army. Having the boss or the point man was the sergeant or the manager, even though he was a sergeant, but was the person over him. And it's the same thing with barber colleges, because mental illness is real. And a lot of people come in, I'm talking about vets because I have a couple of vets that work in my salon, my barbershop salon, unisex. And they need that bridge. And barbering is one of those industries that bridge the gap between military life and coming into just civilian life. And this is one of those industries that can do it, and we do it. And you're going to take a third away from that education, that time spent in uniform, with that point man, which is that instructor. You're going to take that time away from these veterans that need it, and you got a lot of veterans that are joining the Army. The two that I got are some of the most disciplined people. They clean up more than... They clean up everybody's station. Hey, it used to be only 2 people come to the shop on Mondays. But since I heard one of the veterans that work, he's there at 8 o'clock. And so when you're there, as we know in this industry, you hear people gonna come. Yes. And so when other people start coming and they customers start coming because somebody's here, because sometimes people need it. But anyway, the whole nother subject. But I'm just saying they have so much to offer. And I spoke to one of my veterans. He said, "Man, 1,000 hours, I was just really getting into the groove. I was just feeling." I talked to some of the instructors. Well, I went back to my barber college. I used to instruct there. And I talked to some of the students. It was a 50-50. Some of the students, I'm ready now. I'm ready now. Some of the students were like, "Man, I'm just getting learning," because now we're doing different stuff. They learning how to do the stuff on the hair. It's so much more. Back in the day, I used to tell, and I promise I'm going to get up out of here. I used to tell some of my customers, I said, "Man, okay, I'm going to ask you again, because once I take it off, I can't put it back on." No, you can put it back on now. They got stuff where you can add this, spray this. So
we can put the hair back on for the men.
Why you think I look this good at 45? I got a little bit in my hair right now. So it's so much more to learn in this industry, y'all. We got so much, and I mentioned the veterans because I said it's near and dear to my heart, and they need that time to mend and grow, and they just getting it at 1,000 hours. And like I said, some of the students that I asked, y'all ready? I'm ready, Mr. Ron. Well, you asked the instructor, and they said, "Man, he still got to do this, that, and the other." And that's what's going to happen. And I leave you with this thought. I was listening to one of the comments, and you were laughing and joking, and we all kind of laughed when one of the constituents said, "Can I get my instructor license for 100 hours now?" And that was really funny. But let me tell you, we go to, well, I'm not going to mention a certain change, but you go to the dollar menu so you can get a hamburger for $1, correct? Yeah. Now you go to a high dollar restaurant, you don't mind paying $15, $20, $30. You can go get a steak from one of these restaurants and pay $3, $4. Me and my wife had the opportunity, we ate at Fleming's last night. Right. Okay, we looking at a steak that costs $110. you don't mind paying for that 100 because you value that dollar menu because you think of it as a dollar. But when you set your value gap and your value is at a $15, you don't mind paying the 50 because it's a value gap, correct? Okay, so you go to you go to another restaurant and you see $15 instead of the dollar menu, you're gonna turn around and walk out the way because you don't value that restaurant like you value the other restaurant. See, that's what's gonna happen. That's why you're making the joke 100 hours, because that's what they gonna think about us, like a dollar menu. 100 hours, that's all it takes to get that. No, we can't. And so I strongly disagree, and I'm gonna make the motion that we keep the hours the same, 1,500 hours.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ron. Is it Ronald? I'm Ron Jemison, TDLR chair. As everybody up here has mentioned, as a lot of people have seen in the last meetings and the meetings, the summits and things of that nature, it's been a 19 was a long year. A lot of things came up in our industry and we were faced with, and so you know, like Mr. Ron was saying, back in April when legislation was meeting, you know, I did go up there and try to speak. You know, I did speak and try to understand and make sure that we had a voice, because basically it's our career and this is affecting a lot of people's lives. We have health and safety. We have a lot of things that we learn in the industry and in school that help us and prepare us to be better servants to the community and better the public that we serve. I see the universities moving in a rapid pace as well. I see a lot of things done. Somebody told me the other day that they can get an associate degree on the phone. Hey, and I don't know, I can't tell, I don't know if that person that got that associate degree from on the phone or on the internet, however they got it, I can't tell you if that person is going to be successful or not. That's not, I mean, because my grandfather didn't graduate from college. You know, he was very successful. So, you know, sometimes it's the desire. You know, each one of the people that I see in here that come up to pay attention to their career, they had a desire. Y'all have the passion. A lot of people in this business have a passion for the business and want to do better. So no matter if the hours were 5, 10, 20, or 100, if that's what I want to do, I'm going to do it. And so we have to, as a board and as a people, it's not that I personally don't feel that we're chasing cause at all. I feel that cosmetology, as we look at the stats, and this is not just in Texas, but across the nation, yeah, we're on the rise right now. But if we don't do something to stay on the level, and we can still increase the level by how we educate, then why, I'm trying to figure out why that student's going to go to a barber school. And so alleviating that choice where we can basically stay in the ball game is very important to me. And it should be very important to everybody, and I think it is, because we don't want to lose our industry. We want to make sure we sustain it and value and show people the value that we have. So if I'm a consumer and I'm looking to go to become a barber, and I go to a cosmetology school, I get my 1,000 hours, I pass my test, and then I go to XYZ school, take 300 hours, and now I am a licensed barber. I'm dual licensed now. So that was for 13. I know Mr. James proposed 12, 50. So 1,500, is that going to keep us in the ball game, or is that going to, these next 2 years before legislation comes up again, is that going to keep us out of the ball game? I say that, and I said it, I think last meeting, is that it's not that I feel like we're going to copy or mimic cosmetology. I just feel that looking at the stats, I want to protect this industry. I want to protect the barbers. I want to protect our industry so bad, and I don't want to see it go away. You got to understand that when I went to legislation and watched the process, it take a lot of numbers to come up there to persuade some folks. And I know that it seemed like in the last meeting, or maybe it was me talking to some folks in general, that we were talking about organizations. And just recently, I got invited to speak for a panel in Dallas in late February. I think it's February 27th. An organization, it's a National Barber organization, that called me to speak on their panel about rules and regulation and about the stuff in Texas and things of that nature. But I know that there used to be some organizations in Texas, but I challenge that again, that we need to form those groups. We need to form those organizations so we won't be late to the totem pole. You know, a lot of things, I don't want to talk about Cosmo too much, but a lot of things that happen in Cosmo that we're hearing in COS, and the reason why I mention COS is because I actually have a COS school and a barber school, and I watched my family do cosmetology forever. So I was coming to those meetings, sitting in the crowd like you guys are, and listening, and I used to go to the barber meetings as well, and I was it was 4 people in there. And so I kept asking my parents, why aren't there a lot of barbers? Weren't they first? You know, because the books I read, I saw the history, and I saw these nice lab jackets that were white and stayed white the whole day after doing all this work. I was like, this is amazing. And I see the history, I see the growth, I see the resurgence, I see the comments, I see the passion, I stayed up countless nights reading a lot of the comments. And of course, if I ask a student right now, they're gonna tell me they're ready to go, you know, at 500 or 200 hours. They don't wanna be in school for a day. Most of them. I'm not gonna say all, because there are people in there that do wanna learn a lot more, and it takes them a little bit more time. My son has a disability, you know, so he goes to school for him. It takes him more time. So I do understand that. Great point. Veterans are very dear, and they serve the country, and I've been exposed to see a lot of the disabilities that come across as well. As educators, we gotta step up and do our job, and we gotta reach those folks to make sure that they're able to pass this exam. At the end of the day, I don't think that we're gonna dummy down our industry by leveling the playing field. I think that what we would do is make sure we're still in the playing field, because I feel very strongly that if we do not make a change to these hours and actually be at 1,000, then the community will start going another way and finding an easier way to get to what they want to accomplish their goals. Continuing education is something that's a valid point. I remember when it came up in cosmetology back some years ago, it went from, I think it started at 12 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Then it went to 8, then it went to 6, and now it's 4. So is it that important? I don't know. I think it's important, yes, because I'm an educator as well, so I think that we should always most professions go back to Con Ed to have to renew their license and things of that nature. And that's something that we can put on the agenda item for next time to discuss and make sure we bring up about Con Ed and barbering, because I think that is very important to have because of the things that are changing every day in the business. The barbers that are up here on this panel as well talk very good about the fact that how, like Mr. Ronald said, now we can put hair back on folks and stuff like that. I mean, it's the modern day toupee. You know, these things haven't just happened. They've been there. It's just that we're bringing them back up again in a flashy fashion. I didn't have a cell phone back then. I mean, the first one I had was like a briefcase, you know, and so now we're walking around with it in our hand. I walk to the restaurant, I see about 40 people with their heads down, and nobody's communicating anymore. The teachers are telling me the same thing in the classroom. You got to almost jump on the table like Robin Williams did in that movie where he played as a professor, I think, at a boarding school. You know, he had to do some very innovative things to catch the attention of those kids because the attention span is like, yo, right? So when the attention span is shorter because we can get the information so quick on this phone, what are we going to do as educators to try to keep their attention for 1,500 hours? I know it's a challenge. I already know it's a challenge. Not every school has the same challenge, no. But the majority of schools do. And that's why these kids, or not kids, that's why these young adults are sometimes in and out of schools. And this is not just Barber, this is universities as well. First year, 50% drop out. You know, so we have to really be innovative and really stay on the cutting edge and figure out how can we make sure we stay in the ball game, make sure that legislation does not want to dereg us, because if we don't acquire numbers next year or this year, then what do you think they're going to look at when they go to legislation? They're going to be like, well, it looks like the decline, it like went down instead of going up, and so should we keep Barber? You know, maybe they'll think about that. I don't know. I'm not in their minds, but I'm just watching the consensus of the U.S. I'm looking at the State of the Union address. I'm watching things change so rapidly. It's amazing. It's hard to keep up with technology. It's moving so fast. You know, so we have to really be innovative and really think of the big picture, like the real long-term picture of where this is going. You know, and why did it change? Like Ron said, why did they make that change? Well, just so happened I happened to be in the Cosmo meeting, so I kind of was talking to a lot of people in there, so I kind of heard why some things were changed. You know, why the reduction. This reduction didn't just start last year or this year. This started 10 years ago or so. They've been trying to do this. And so if you can recall, I think Jenny said that you can go to high school for $1,000 and get this license.
Yes.
That was one of the major arguments they had for cosmetology. It was like a 17-year-old can get the same license that a 25-year-old can get in less hours. And they were really arguing that point. And it was really hard to dispute it or to debate it, should I say, when they were so set on it at that time. And I was hoping so bad, that's why I posted my post on Facebook and social media, that I would get a lot of other barbers to come up and fight with me at that time before those things changed. And so they weren't even thinking about barber at all. And so I wanted to make sure that we were on their minds, that understand, I asked one of them, I said, do you go get a haircut, you know? And the young man said, yeah. So I was trying to engage the importance of our industry to the committee at legislation. So it's a real, I think nobody likes change, and so I've heard wait, I've heard, you know, let's see what happens, I've heard, you know, all these kind of things. I just don't want it to be too late. So the people have spoken. A lot of people have come up and spoke at the meetings and at the summit. We've heard public comments. We've heard from our advisory board. One of our members is not here today, but we've heard from everybody that's here today. So I thank everybody for coming and making public comments and actually participating. It lets us know that we're growing and we are moving in the right direction. So at this time, I'm gonna ask the board to make a motion to.
There's a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion.
Yeah, there's
a motion
on
on
the
the
table. We need
table.
to
Well,
see if there's going to be a second.
Let me repeat that motion on it. Can I
It was
get that
Mr.
motion?
Weathers, I believe, that made the motion. Everybody else was having discussion, but I think Mr.
Okay.
Weathers made a motion.
So we're waiting to see if there's
He
a
made the motion or
second.
he made the motion?
I made the motion. Ron Weathers, I'm sorry, I made the motion. And just to address a couple things you just said real quick. I think, and I look at things from a holistic view too, Ron, and you were saying your what if, but your what ifs to me seem to be looking at it from a negative perspective. Like, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? Well, what if we keep growing and keep booming the way we're doing? And then it still goes back to the question I asked, why? And then you gave another reason when you said why it's been 10 years ago. Well, 10 years it's been in trying to come to fruition. Well, what's still the why? Is it because the hours now at the high school level? Is that what we're doing it now? Because high school is 1,000 and Cosmo did it. The why is something bigger pushing this thing to the why. And I think this is still, and I don't think this was enough to say, let's do it. What is the why?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at this time.
Could I answer that?
And I apologize for being late.
NJ.
So at this
Okay.
time, we've got the
The
we
motion.
have a motion on the table, so we need to see if there's a second.
Okay.
And if there's no second, then we'll move on to the next motion.
Gotcha. There's a motion on the table. Mr. Weathers made a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, that motion dies for lack of a second.
All right. Okay. Expound on it for me, Ms. Colleen.
I think I know.
Okay. No, because
If it's-
go ahead. I was going to speak, but go ahead. No, go ahead. No, I was going to answer this
Okay,
question.
this is
Go
Jenny
ahead.
Hatch,
Mhm.
and I would like to move that the rules, as we have established them, go to the commission.
Okay. Ms. Jenny made a motion. Is there a second? I second it. Ron Jemison.
Call your vote.
All in
I'm-
favor?
Well, if I may, I'm going to.
Go ahead and interject that.
I'm going to ask you to pull back your motion real quick.
Mhm.
Okay, I will
So-
pull back my motion.
Because if
'Cause
I
you
may,
wanted to
this is
vote.
all going to hinge on hours, if
Mhm.
I'm not incorrect.
Mhm.
So can I ask that you make your motion, I'm going to do
More
two.
specific.
Can you do all rules not including hours and see where that goes? Because I don't want to take down, because there are other things that we're doing. There's remote services, there's cleanup for classroom stuff, and so there are other rules that are in this package.
That's a
Right.
great
So can we pull the
suggestion.
hours out, and can you, somebody,
Pull the
So-
hours out of the.
yeah, so right now, just the motion on,
I would like to take back my motion and put forth a new motion. I would like to move that we send all of the rules except for the change in hours, to move them forward to the commission for review.
Mhm.
That's my motion. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So does everybody understand that motion?
There was a motion to move the hours to commission,
No.
and then a motion.
No.
It's the
She-
opposite
she
way,
took
Mr.
out-
Weathers.
she took
Oh,
out-
okay.
She took out the hours, and she moved the other.
To be reviewed later.
Yes.
Well, it's
no,
probably going to be
we're
reviewed in
not-
about 4
in-
seconds.
that's 12 seconds, yeah. We're gonna have the next part. But
They
just,
just wanted to
Yeah.
untangle them
yeah.
at this
Talking
moment.
about the other.
Okay.
Okay, all
Yes,
right.
sir.
So is there a second?
Do you, these are
Does
the
everybody
remote
understand?
service rules,
Yeah, this is
these
not about
are
the
your.
hours.
These are rules that need to be changed.
Oh, I second the motion.
I was like,
Thank you,
the whole-
Mr. Weathers.
Well, I know, because I thought you did it. Just,
Okay.
I thought he said.
Got a motion and a second?
Can you do a vote for me, please?
Okay, let's, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that motion carried,
Okay.
Oh.
all right?
Now, Ms. Hatch.
Yeah. So now,
Now we're
the
back on.
only portion of the proposed rules that are left are the hours. Now,
Correct.
again, I want to make this clear. There are two sections of hours that we need to address. One is for the current 1,500, and one is for the current 1,000. So I just need to remember that there are two changes that are dealing with the 1,000 hour. There's the current Class A barber, moving that to 1,000, and then the look and the way it's outlined for the current 1,000. So there is already a current 1,000 curriculum that is out there, and because we've made them look the same for both 1,000, we need to do two. Do you want to make changes to the current 1,000 and the current 1,500?
That we looked at last
Mr.
time.
Weathers, you're looking at me confused.
That's the one we looked at last time, correct?
Yes.
When they had the curriculums out. When we looked
Yes.
at the
Yeah,
curriculums.
can we review that, please?
Absolutely. So, in your rules, there are two different curriculum standards. There are ones for your Class A barber that is for a private or public post-secondary barber school, which is at 1,500. And we've adjusted that to be, the basics is 150, then practice is 750, and business is 100, and that would be the 1,000 for your Class A barber. And then there is the curriculum standards for your Class A barber certificate, specifically from a public secondary program, high school, which is already at 1,000.
Crowd, help me out now.
Which is already at 1,000. And we have taken that curriculum and we have mirrored what we proposed for the 1,500 to 1,000. So it's going to be the basic at 150, then the practice at 750, the business at 100, totaling the 1,000. So there are 2,000 hours on the table One is current and one is the move. So I just want to make sure that when we're doing this, we don't, are we going to keep this new look for high school? Are we going to make the change for both high school and all industry? Are we not going to make the change for high school and we're not going to make the change for industry? So just remember that there is already 1,000 on the table, and does it need a new look? And there's the 1,500. Does it stay or does it change, take on the new look like the current program? So those are
Mr.
my
Chairman,
points.
Colleen, thank you so much for this, but I am going to jump in and try to make it less complex.
I'm sorry.
If there's going to be a motion, it just needs to be relating to all 1,000-hour
Yes.
changes
Okay.
or not, because
Okay, so you don't want
that
to,
back and forth was just so much, and I think people were getting lost, like, okay, is it the
Mm-hmm.
public? And I think the real question, I think everybody came to this meeting, is are they going to go from 1,500 to 1,000 hours? And then the associated changes of public school follow, and just make it just very crisp, okay?
Okay,
okay, so we,
Let's do that.
all right, I got it.
okay.
All right, okay. Well, I make a motion.
Thank you.
I'm Ron Jemison Jr. I make a motion to carry the rules as read.
To the 1,000 hour.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. So your motion, because it's split, fails. And so we will take that recommendation that the 1,000-hour change was not recommended for a change to commission.
Gotcha.
Can I
Yes.
recognize?
Please.
James Bowens, I would like to move to make a motion
I like it.
to a change of 1,250 from 1,500 hours.
Do we put
I'm
that-
looking at my
do
boss
we-
now.
I know. Do we put that on the agenda for next time, or how do we do that?
No, I'll let Brad
There's a
weigh
motion
in
on the
first.
floor now, so it needs to either get a second or not. And if I could just make a quick comment as a member of the Education and Curriculum Committee, if we do consider changing the hours, we will have to redo all of the work that we have been doing for years on this curriculum. Just wanted everybody to keep that in mind.
Yeah, let him interject right
This is
quick.
Brad Bowman, General Counsel. I just wanted to weigh in with a couple of considerations. One is sort of along those lines that there's a breakdown of the hours in the rule, and so that would have to be adjusted because what's in the rule is 1,000 hours and how that's broken down into the different subject categories, so you'd have to adjust that. And then the other question, which I think Colleen may be hinting at, is can we make a change like this at this point in the rulemaking process? The next stage of this process, whatever the board ultimately recommends, that's going to go before our commission. They will have the rule as proposed in the Texas Register, the 1,000 hours, and as it's laid out, and then they'll know what your recommendation ultimately is. The commission is limited in terms of how they can make changes once it's proposed. They can't make radical changes once it's proposed because the public wasn't on notice of that. So generally what that means is we can't make something more stringent than what we proposed. I think what you're suggesting here would make it probably less stringent than the current. So it's probably within the realm of what the commission could do on adoption if you wanted to go that route. But there are some things we need to deal with if that's the way the board would go. So
And if I could add,
Go ahead,
Mr.
please.
Chairman, and I apologize.
Mhm.
So Brad, I do agree with you. I think it's counterintuitive because it sounds like we're making it more stringent, moving from 1,000 to 1,250, but really it's moving from 1,500 to 1,250. So I believe it is making it less stringent ultimately if it were to pass. We could do a couple of things. We could take this motion up, and it may live, it may die. You know, this room is really interesting today. Everybody's getting their money's worth. And at that point in time, if the motion passes, we could either take a motion to say we authorize the staff to make the associated changes in the 1,250, so adding the 250 hours to the 1,000, or we could take how many members of the education group are here? We have the two, right?
Yep.
we could take a 20-minute break, have them huddle in that room with GC, with our education staff, and look at, because we had other examples of a 1,300 and 1,200, so it wouldn't be very difficult to get that incremental. So, Mr. Chairman, we could take that step. We could do the vote. If it passes at 12:50, we can either take a break and have the work group huddle, and that way, everybody can see what's in front of them. They can see, oh, there's 700 hours here, there's 80 hours here, because I think having that visual in hand, particularly on this particular issue, is important to give people the comfort and then the transparency that we want to talk about.
Okay. All right, thank you for that.
So may I ask for a smidge of a break? Because
Okay.
I need to run something by my
Okay,
bosses.
all right, well, let me do a break.
Thank
you. We got a suggestion on the floor,
Okay.
right? We're gonna, how much, 10?
5 minutes or so, yeah, 5 or
We'll
10
do
minutes,
10.
yeah.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a break till 11:10. Let's bring it back in at 11. Man, my eyes are bad, y'all. 11:09. 11:09, meeting back to the floor.
Colleen, if you'll wrap up where you
Ms.
started,
Colleen,
so we can.
Okay, definitely. So I just want to make sure. So Mr. Bowens, you've made a motion for the 1250, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, we had a motion on the floor.
Okay. Now, so I just want to make sure. So the next thing is that do you get a second for your motion, and then we'll move from there. What happens next?
Can we repeat that motion? So it'll be fresh again?
Go ahead.
You want to repeat your motion?
Okay, my motion is to change the hours from 1,500 down to 1,250.
Okay, so Mr. Bowens made a motion. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
There is a second.
I said Ron Weathers, I second.
Call your vote.
Let's call for all in favor?
Yeah.
Nay.
All opposed?
So that
I'm a nay.
motion fails as well. Okay. So we're going to sit with the advisory board votes to not move forward
Correct.
a change to the 1,500 hours.
Correct.
Unless there's another motion.
Unless somebody wants to make another motion.
Repeat what you just said one more time.
So the original change to go with rules as proposed was a draw, and so therefore that motion failed. And then the motion for the 1250 has also failed. So it would be before the commission as the advisory board did not recommend a change to the 1,500 hour.
Okay, but last meeting it did.
You recommended that it.
To publish.
To publish.
To publish, right, to public comment, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the sake of taking out this reality show a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yes?
Is there a sweet spot between the 1,250 and the 1,000? And that's for y'all to decide. I just want to watch.
May I be recognized?
You can, James.
James
He gave the sweet spot.
James Bowens. I just want to.
No.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Sir, no,
sir.
no.
No, sir.
Sit.
No,
It's
sir.
okay. It's okay.
No, sir.
Public comment period is
It's over.
already
Public
passed.
comment. Sir.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. It's all right.
Sir.
All right.
Well, you have to do it in a way. It's an order. It's an order, sir. All right? We have an order. Okay. We have an order the way we do the meeting, okay? It's an order. All right, we asked for public comments at the beginning. I'm not sure if you were here. So we thank you for being here, but we have to follow protocol, okay? All right? Go ahead, Mr. James.
James Bowens. This is difficult. Of course, we all have a dog in the fight. And I just want to make sure that we're well representing the common consensus of everybody. And I feel like if we move to 1,000 hours, that we're making winners and losers. And I know in the grand scheme of things, I'm not saying that, we're actually losing, but what I'm saying is I feel like even as a board that we have to come to some common ground to at least show that we're taking into consideration people's concerns. So that's why that I decided to make a motion for the 1,250. It would definitely, I just want to make sure that everybody's represented. So I don't know what else to.
It's fair.
That was a fair comment.
That's fair.
I like that. And I appreciate your input, as we all. I don't think that, I think that earlier when I was speaking that when Ronald mentioned, Mr. Weathers mentioned about, why were we even at this point making a change, right? Well, there's a lot of people in the industry that go to legislation and propose and with their state reps and representatives and actually propose House bills, actually. They mention their concerns and they go out there and they have their lobbyists and they fight. And they mention things that they want to get done to satisfy either their businesses or their business interests. And so it wasn't that cosmetologists were saying that they wanted to lower the hours, because if you talk to a bunch of cosmetologists, they feel the same way. They want, I mean, most of the educators are like, hey, we need 1,800, you know? So I don't want anybody in here to think that cosmetologists wanted 1,000 hours, because that's really not what happened. It just happened to a few people went up to, and a bill went to legislation. So, you know, that's when I was mentioning about the organizations, about having organizations. So if you do see a need to change the sinks in every 2 stations like we had before in the barber schools, you know, I mean, the reason why a lot of barber schools probably didn't come about was because of some of the rules they had in place at that time. I mean, it was square footage rules, and there was sink plumbing issue rules, right? So a lot of people, you know, cosmetology schools, you can put your plumbing all in one spot. In barbers, you had to put a sink in every 2 stations, right? And so that prevented a lot of people from, even business owners, from even wanting to go through that headache of having to cut concrete and spend all that money on plumbing. You know, so, you know, it's not that Cosmo was leading the charge on that at all. It's just that theirs was in statute. So when their change happened, it was in statute. So it changed in statute. And then when we came back to the table, barbers, our beautiful executive team and Colleen and her crew saw where ours was in the rules book. So we had the opportunity to, last meeting, that's when we had the summit, to actually make a decision if we wanted to make a change at all. You know, leave it the same or just make a change at all. So we actually voted to have the liberty to even have this discussion of actually changing the hours from 1,500 to whatever number it's going to be. And so that's where that came about. It really didn't come from just licensed cosmetologists sitting up there saying, "Hey, man, let's get it at 1,000." So no, it was bigger than that. It was a bigger picture, and it was amazing on Capitol Hill looking at what was happening. It was and Cosmo's next meeting. I mean, I went to a meeting not too long ago where they're forming an organization right now for barber and cosmetologists to get involved, and it's just that. It's talking about why are we letting other people control our industry, you know? And so we wouldn't even have this discussion about 1,500 and 1,000 right now. It wouldn't have came up. So, but at the same time, since it did come up and it did happen, it's like, hey, do we want to stay at 15? And think about the recruiting aspect. Our job for the last couple of years was to make sure we had more barbers, right? We were like, oh, let's see how we can make the numbers increase so we can have more barber instructors, more Class A barbers, et cetera, and more barber shops, right? Legally. And so the numbers were very low when I got on the board, and James and Ronald, when y'all got on the board, you know, as well, it started increasing as they go, but they're still not where we want them to be. And so I was a little upset at the change of the square footage rule, but because there's almost a barber school on every corner now, like there was shops. So now the SME committee, we started talking about the standards and our standards of education and the quality of education. Is it diluted, or how are we going to raise that bar to make sure we stay up here, you know? And so I think that Ms. Benita has made some great points about standards and test scores and things of that nature. That was some very key points that she made, because we want our scores to improve across the board. We want the industry to rise up. We're looking good on paper as far as making more money per service, but are we looking good as far as rising our numbers of qualified licensed barbers in a good pace? You know, so if I'm just going to throw it out. I know that we voted and things have been talked about, and we've had public comments. When online classes came about, I mean, I know I got kids that go take classes online in college, and so they're able to go work and also do school, you know, and get their lesson done and graduate. I think we have the ability to do the same. in our industry, we just can't do the practical online, right? So we could take some things to another level, and I challenge a lot of the barber schools and educators to let's do that. The hours shouldn't have nothing to do with the quality of education we're giving. It's just a number that we have to do. I think Florida said they want to go down to 750. I heard Pennsylvania wants to go down. I mean, this is not just us. It's not just Texas. And so it's just keeping up with the times and making sure we're not falling behind the 8 ball. And I know that I've heard, let's give it some time. I'm worried about that time. I'm worried about that if we give it time and it does not, and it starts, and everybody starts going to other schools to get what they need, barber schools will start decreasing. And that's my fear. That's my fear.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject, I believe there's one more order of business that Colleen would like to take
Yes.
up, and it's not changing 1,000 hours, it's just simply configuring the public school 1,000-hour program, so there's no shuffling of anything under there, but the
Yes,
work
can
that
we do that?
the education
Okay.
work group did
Yes.
to
We went over that.
rearrange
Yes.
the current 1,000-hour program
To match.
to match.
We
So we'd
did.
like to have
Yes.
that vote on the record if that's appropriate and something.
So
Okay.
I would like to just say what we're trying to do with the different license types, all across the license types under barbering, is get them to actually be similar in the requirements where things are the same, where they have the same requirements, get the same hours in there. So basically, it's just neatening it up. Right now, if you look at the rule book and you can see all of these different, they don't match at all. And so we're just trying to streamline them and get them to be more identical in the hours that should be the same across all of these. So it's getting the 1,000-hour more in line with the 1,500-hour as far as proportionality of the different requirements. So I would like to make a motion that we just adopt the curriculum changes for the current 1,000-hour curriculum that's available for high school programs that already exists.
Anybody second? I'll second.
I third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that
Thank you,
motion
members.
carried.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Ms.
So-
Colleen, go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jenny. 15 more
It's Jenny
minutes.
Hatch again. I'll try not to keep this 15 minutes. I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about the urgency of what we're talking about. Because as was recently pointed out to me, there are more cosmetologists working in barbershops as barbers than there are licensed barbers in the state of Texas.
That's right.
Which reminds me also, members of the public, please feel free to contact me at any time. You can look me up, get my email, my website information. You're welcome to talk to me outside of the meeting anytime. So it is dangerous to make it more difficult for people already who cannot go to barber school, who have to wait in to get into barber school. If now they will have to spend a third more time in barber school than they would in cosmetology school, we will lose numbers. And it is a danger to the barbering industry, because if we do lose numbers, or we fail to grow at the rate the cosmetologists do, why they're going to have an argument of why not combine them. And that is something that I know no one in this industry wants to do. So I think that this is a step that we could make in order to help prevent the combining of barbering and cosmetology. That's why I think it's vital, as you were saying, that we act quickly with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have a comment?
I do. Ron Weathers, may I be recognized?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ron Weathers, I was listening to a few of the comments. I just wanted to say, Ron, you said Cosmo and Barbers, this is old. We did not do this. It's been coming around. We're talking about the rule change, because I was asking why.
As far
I
as
want
the
to know
hours,
why.
yeah.
As far as the hours, the change, it why, and you said it's been going on for the last 10 years. So if not why, then who? Who? Evidently, it's some folks with some deep pockets that's bigger, either some bigger corporations, there's somebody bigger pushing this thing. If it's not us, it wasn't me, it wasn't you, it wasn't the people I know. I don't know if it's the people in the industry you know.
You
So
know
if
'em.
it wasn't us, like who's pushing it? So I disagree, and I don't think that the rule changes in schools has led to more schools growing or losing steam. It's still growing. The industry is booming. How are we losing numbers? We're not. So and I understand the preventive maintenance. How are we making it more difficult? We've been doing this for years. So how is all of a sudden now 1,500 hours making it more difficult? I don't understand it. And going back to my question, are we looking at our rising level? And you said, are we looking at rising our level of qualified barbers? Lowering the hours does not. It's not gonna help make qualified barbers. I said that's not going to. That I don't get. And then we're having a conversation about having an online or a phone barbering program.
No, I didn't have a conversation about it. I just brought it up as far as what industries are doing.
Yeah, but this is a relation. I don't understand it, and that's something I'm trying to understand. Right now, 64% of the U.S. That's 31 states. From a reciprocity standpoint, accept 1,500 hours.
That's right.
And I just agree with. I was just trying to address some of the questions that came to my mind.
Very good. Very good
Thank you
stuff.
for listening to me.
Very good stuff.
Real
You
quick,
go for it, James.
real
You
quick.
got it.
James Bowens.
Let's do it. Let's do
so
it.
there's been I've heard conversation about the possibility of if we don't change things, that it may be a possibility down the road where they may try to merge us together if we're not working together. I can't remember what verbiage that was used, but at the same time, I'm thinking if our hours matched identical to the cosmetologist's hours,
Which does now.
what would stop them at that point from saying, let's make it all one, because we're at the same hours? So,
Well, it's been 1,500 for a while. It's been 1,500 on Cosmo. It's been 1,500 on Barber for forever. So it didn't happen. So if it was 1,500 hours over here on Cos and 1,500 on Barb, I mean, where did the crossover come from? I don't, I understand all your points, guys. Understand. I want so much for everybody to just research it. You know, it's not that you ask who made the change, who went to their state rep and made a change. I mean, some people that were interested in making that change. I mean, it was some industry people that own salons that want to open salons in a rapid pace. It was simple as that. And so they've been trying to push this for a long time. But at the end of the day, and they made it happen. And so with them making that happen, on the Cosmo side, they just didn't go after the barber side. They weren't even concerned with the barber side. So we need to make sure that they're concerned about us. So I wanted to make sure we're still relevant. And so that was the purpose of me saying, hey, let's keep the playing field kind of level. We were 1,500, we were 1,500. Let's still be equal on that part, because I know cosmetologists got a lot of information in school too. Our curriculums are very much the same. So that was, it wasn't to degrade or anything. I think barber industry is the best. I love it. I'm in it. I'm a barber as well. I'm a barber educator as well. So I'm with you on that. And so I understand about taking away. I understand those things. I felt the same way when they did it. I was like, why are they doing this stuff? Why are they taking away hours when you got people fighting for more hours? I've heard 1,800. I've heard 2,200. I think California was 22 at one time, if I'm not mistaken, So it's just that the world is changing, and I just feel like I don't want to be left behind. So that was the reason why it was brought up. It was brought up because of the fact that they made a change happen in legislation in cosmetology, because some people went up there and proposed it to their legislation. And so since it did change, hey, let's see if Barber can make a change as well to make sure that we won't be left behind the totem pole. That's all it was. So whether it's 15, 2,000, 1,000, I think we're still going to create some great barbers out here. And I really appreciate everybody for coming out and chiming in. I appreciate our board. Man, some great information that's going to make my head swell on the way home driving. But I'm going to put it all together and reach out to other people in the profession and in other states to look at the stats to see what happened when they made a change and went down. I want to see those stats as well. But and we'll see what happens on that part. But at the same time, I know that when you're in the school, and if you're an educator in the school, and you're battling with people, schools that have deep pockets, per se, the mom and pop school, how are they going to compete? How is the mom and pop school going to compete advertising-wise to get that student to go to their school for a year, 9 months to a year compared to 6 months? I just don't see how that's going to happen. But we're going to see. And I think that just like the dollar menu and stuff like that, you just got to raise your quality up in your establishment. And just like barbershops, you got people that go to this barbershop, people that go to this barbershop because of the quality. This one might play hip-hop, this one might play rock and roll, and I like this one rock and roll better. So I get it. It's a preference. But at the same time, at one point in time, we're going to have to make sure that we're balanced out and that we're making sure that we can still lead. We can still lead because we're very creative. And so the education part, I don't think that's going to change at all. I think the standards are still there. The students still have to pass the test. So in order to pass the exam, if it's 500 hours, we still as educators have to teach that curriculum in that part to have them pass the exam. So I think it was a good meeting. Colleen, do you have anything else for me today?
No, I'll do just a quick recap. The rules
Okay.
will be before the commission that you guys recommended that they adopt the rules minus the 1,000 hours. Then it will show that you guys recommended the streamlined current 1,000 hours for high school, and that you vote not to recommend the change in hours.
Yes, ma'am. That was it. All right. Thank y'all very much. So, moving right along to item G, which is recommendations for agenda items for our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis.
Please.
First of all, I just want to commend the industry and the board. It's been the most thorough and detailed discussion on an important issue that can impact your industry. And we saw I think people saw the struggle and making sure that every aspect of the industry was really represented well, whether it was 1,500, 1,250 camp, 1,000 camp. I don't think anyone can say that their voice was not heard over this process through the summit, last advisory board meeting, as well as today. So appreciate the effort. It really is. It's clear that y'all care. So the next steps, obviously, the rules are going to go to the rules are going to go to the commission at their next meeting to take final votes and get the recommendations that come out of this process here. Mr. Chairman, I would like or appreciate if we have an advisory board meeting that is subsequent to the implementation of the rules. There's no need for us to meet in June and July and August because the new rules, whether it's remote services or whatever happens at the commission level, will not be fully in effect. We won't realize what those issues are. So I think an early September meeting to give the board an update on final actions of the commission, implementation of the rule, and then we'll have an idea of what's taking place down there on the ground with licensees. So we'll include the normal things in the agenda, whether it's staff reports, update from the rule process. We'll have the sunset report will have been issued, I guess maybe in June with meetings taking place. So we'll have an opportunity to provide updates on that as well as the strategic planning process.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a suggestion for an agenda item.
Jenny Hatch. Good job.
I'm Jenny Hatch again. And to continue the, thank you, the reality show theme. I've become very interested in helping as many people get into the industry as want to get into the industry and removing barriers as much as possible. And something that is really, it's statutory, keeping people with certain criminal convictions from becoming licensed, right? But I would like to just discuss this. I would like to talk about sometimes legislative ideas can come from this board and from TDLR as opposed to just lobbying and special interests. 10,000 people a week in this country return from prison back into society, and they really struggle with getting jobs. And some of those people would make excellent barbers and would be able to work, earn a living, and contribute to society. And I think that we should remove that barrier. And anyway, that's my suggestion for
Remove
something to
what
talk about.
barrier? Because they can.
They're
what?
prevented from becoming barbers if they have certain criminal convictions.
So it would be the enforcement work group meeting to review the criminal conviction guidelines and see if there are any changes that need to be made from that.
Okay.
And it's been a while
since we
since
reviewed that.
since they've been looked at. And there are some differences between the cosmetology criminal conviction guidelines and those of the barber.
Okay. We need to vote on that, to put it on the agenda?
No, we
Just
can,
put it on the agenda?
we can have the enforcement group meet, and we'll have work group updates.
Okay.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have something for the agenda for next?
Wasn't there something else?
Seemed like there was something mentioned earlier. What was it, what was it, James? Did you mention something?
Mr. Chairman, we can have Anna reach out to the board members individually to see if there's
She
any
has the,
ideas, because I know
notes.
sometimes
She was
my
taking
brain
notes.
just, yeah, things
Okay.
kind of run outside of my brain and leave permanently.
That's it for me, and September is good for me.
How's September for everyone?
That's great for me.
Good, okay, all right, okay. Item, well, we discussed date and time was September, so that was H. Y'all ready to go eat? All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out today. There will be many more, and encourage your other barber professionals to come out and support this great industry and this board so we can have some great discussions like we had today. It is, I can't see.
It's 11:35.
It is, thank you. See, my boy will be protecting me. It's 11:35, and this meeting is adjourned.